This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jeffrey Reddick.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan East.
This is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
I'm Krista Vernoff.
This is Ryan Sickles.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Fowley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Wes Maebe, also known as the Wesonator, and we're listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, indeed. We are in Los Angeles-ish.
Anaheim.
We're
at Disneyland.
We're at Disneyland with Wes Maebe, who has recorded, mixed, mastered, or engineered artists including Sting, Robert Plant, Jean-Luc Ponty, Celine Dion, Ellie Goulding, Chaka Khan, One Republic. The list goes on and on and on, and man, we're elated to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Earlier today, we had a conversation with one of the sales. By the way, we are at NAMM. Thank you to NAMM for letting us in and covering.
Exactly.
Talking to the members and stuff was what they said they wanted us to do. So we were actually at the Audio Technica booth.
Okay.
And the UK lead sales guy was trying to help. He's like, I really don't know what you guys are doing.
Oh, you and I were at the booth, not you and Wes.
That's right.
Right, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And he said, have you ever had anybody from the UK on the show?
And we were befuddled. We just kind of looked at each other like, oh, shit.
Actually,
yeah.
No. And then lo and behold, boom, a few hours later.
Here we are.
That's cool.
So, yeah, thank you for making sure that we've checked that box off.
Oh, you know what? We had Tony Jeffries, the bronze medalist. Yeah, he was on the show. So there you go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're just wearing the UK out now.
That's right. Yeah. We're picking up a head of steam is what we're doing. What did you guys talk about earlier today? You gave a talk?
I was doing a talk for the NAMM Tech Tracks.
Okay.
And topic this time around was very, very difficult subject, as in how do you read the minds of artists and producers in the recording studio?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you've worked with such a varied roster of artists in a varied number of capacities. I mean, you've done live recordings.
Yeah.
You've mixed, engineered.
Live and in the studio.
And in the studio.
Exactly.
So you have to not only dial in a number of different kinds of artists, but there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So what are your insights about mind reading?
Well, it's always a case of sort of scoping out the situation and seeing who you're dealing with. And I mean, I would say that I'm a very shy person.
Okay.
A lot of people say I'm not, but
says the guy who gave a talk this morning.
No, I know, and I was shitting myself every time this happens. I'm like, my tummy starts rumbling. But in this industry, you have to network, so you just sort of pump yourself up and go and meet somebody and go,
right.
hello, this is me, and can we work together, kind of thing. I think to me, it's all about being yourself and not putting any additional strain on the situation. So, you're just relaxed and easygoing, and anything is possible. And I think people feel that, people react to that, so they feel comfortable and they relax in something that's probably quite a stressful situation.
Sure.
So if you're in a recording studio, the time pressure is on, the money pressure is on, the creative pressure is on. So, and same in the life situation where the stress is even bigger because it's pure adrenaline.
You don't get to go again.
No, you can't say, oh, sorry, we messed that up. Can we do this song again? I mean, I'm sure some people do it, but, the sound guy can't do it.
Right.
So
it can't be your fault.
No.
Your job is to remove obstacles.
That's right. I mean, the job is to sort of appear not even there.
Uh-huh.
If people at a live show need to turn around to the sound guy because things sound bad, that's not a good sign.
They don't turn around to congratulate you because everything sounds terrific.
Yeah, sometimes.
Do they?
You get people coming up after the show and going, wow, man, that was amazing. Thank you.
All right.
That's why we do it, because that's wicked.
Well, I'm going to eventually ask you who among the vast number of artists you've worked with is the most pleasant to work with.
Okay.
I always want to know that. I'm going to have that
later on.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I would like to know where you cut your teeth.
I cut my teeth in a couple of places. If you don't mind, I'll try and be brief in the history. I studied classics in school.
Okay.
Latin and Greek and all that stuff. And the path, because I'm originally from Belgium.
Right.
So what you do then is you go on to university.
Okay.
You know, so I always wanted to be a psychologist of some sort, and at the time I wanted to be a serial killer profiler.
Wow.
Nice. Me too.
All right.
I mean this too. Me too. I had
Yeah.
the same vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I read this book by a Belgian writer, Jeff Gerards, who's sadly died now, but it was all about a Belgian police guy working with somebody, a profiler from the FBI, and they tracked down this serial killer, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
All right.
So I started out studying psychology, and long story short, I got kicked out of university because my thought process did not coincide with that of the university.
Okay.
It's a very Catholic university.
I'm going to take a sidebar with our listeners.
Yeah,
okay,
man.
listeners, go look Wes up. If you're not familiar with the Wesonator, go look him up. He was probably kicked out because he was crushing too much tail. And, headmasters tend to not like that as much. It's a little bit of a distraction. Okay, where were we? So as a psychology, somebody who's focused on the inner workings of the human mind, you decide to, from there, after having been summarily removed.
Indeed. I didn't decide, really. It was my dad. All the credit goes to my dad. My dad used to work for Studer,
Okay.
and he was one of the main importers in Benelux, so Belgium, Holland, and Luxembourg.
Uh-huh.
And after he left that career, there were always audio things in our house. You know, there were like tape machines everywhere and CD players signed by Willie Studer and stuff like that.
Wow.
And my uncle was the head of audio for the European Parliament and Belgian radio and television. So I came home with my tail between my legs because I had to be a Model A student for my parents.
Wow.
Specifically my mom. You know, she went, you can have anything you want, but you got to deliver. So I basically failed, and I got home really
First of all, great job, Mom.
crap. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mom. And I went, what the hell do I do now? And my dad went, how about sound engineering?
Yeah,
And I
what
went,
say you join the family business?
Right, exactly. Well, I've been doing that since I was a baby. So
Right.
I went, what the hell is sound engineering? I had no idea what that was. And my dad said, let's go and meet my best friend. He's the head of AES Europe.
Wow.
Let's go and meet him. He was in Brussels, and let's talk about it. So we met this crazy guy who used to walk around at AES conventions dressed in a toga. Totally loopy.
Wow.
And he was like, if you want to learn this, you've got to go to London. I went, okay.
That sounds pretty
Great.
good. There's a bunch of tail there I haven't crushed.
Yes, exactly. So my parents and I went to London. We checked out every college that was available with it very surreal. My dad walking into the room and going, sniffing around and going, no, this is not the place.
Wow.
I went, okay, whatever.
Okay.
Next college, and so on. Finally, we stumble onto this place, and he sniffs around, looks around for once, and says, this is the place. And the room was lined with tape machines. Mm-hmm. Tape machines which he had built.
Oh, boy.
And he went, this is the place. So we
And
met-
it smelled like magnetic
it
dust.
Smelled like whale fat.
Uh-huh.
And so we met the
That's
course
hilarious.
leader. We got on like a house on fire, and I ended up studying a 4-year course, but I did it in 2 years. I kind of crammed everything together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went back to Belgium.
Wes has always been an overachiever.
Right. Except for when he was that for right.
Well,
Yes,
he was
exactly.
overachieving and crushing tail. That's what got him removed from the school.
Exactly. So and then I went back to Belgium, and I started working at a studio called Galaxy.
Okay.
Galaxy Studios, which is an amazing place. And after a while, Belgian music scene isn't all that amazing. So I got used to the speed of London and stuff. So I was dying to go back. So
Wow.
I went back and started teaching in the college where I went, whilst getting clients and building up my profile a little bit.
So really, you could make
And
a
that was
living
it. Yeah.
while you were freelancing and growing your
Right,
client roster.
Exactly. And it was nice teaching the kids.
Terrific.
And sort of, passing everything on that I'd learned.
Yeah. Teaching also gives you an opportunity to examine your own chops in a way that you won't if you're just always working.
Yeah, because it's second nature. Whatever you're doing, you don't think about it. When you teach, you really have to think about, okay, why do I use a compressor like that?
Yeah.
You sort of have to step back and try and explain it to somebody who does not know anything.
Yeah. I'm proud to say we run a compressor on every show.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yep. Just no idea why.
No idea. We were just told to do it, and we do what we're told.
Thanks, Mike C. So, as your client roster list continues to grow, who and where was the first gig where you went, okay, here we go. Now I'm picking up some momentum.
Oh, my God.
Or what was the gig that allowed you to say, I'm not going to teach anymore?
Right. Okay, yeah, because there were plenty of gigs whilst I was still teaching, but I think the first big gig where I just went, okay, I'm
full-time engineering now.
I mean, there's another reason why I quit teaching, which has got nothing to do with audio. I mean, I still teach like one-on-one and at NAMM shows and stuff, but the first gig, I would say, was going on tour with Sting.
Wow. What tour was that?
It was the Songs from the Labyrinth tour. So
wow.
The Lute tour.
Did that present audio challenges that were a lot different from things that you had done previously?
It did, because it was like a hybrid of, the music wasn't rock and roll, but the approach was slightly rock and roll.
Okay.
Because it's Sting. But it was very classical, which is really where my engineering background was. I mean, I really cut my teeth as a balance engineer, so recording classical shows live.
Wow.
So mixing straight to stereo. And again, if you mess up, you can't just ask the audience if we can do this again.
Man, that is ripping off the training wheels.
Yeah, so that's why he wanted me, because I could read a score, and he was playing all this old Baroque music. So I had to follow the score and figure out the dynamics of what was going on. And we had a full choir behind him. So I had two lute players. I had Edin Karamazov, who's sort of the Jimi Hendrix of lute, and then Sting on lute as well, and then a choir behind him with some sound effects being triggered off Pro Tools as well.
That is terrific.
And the real challenge was every show, because we did all the classical halls in Europe, and every hall is different.
Yes.
And all the gear was different. We didn't carry our own gear, except for our monitor system.
You are absolutely bananas.
Yeah. So I had a different console every night.
Different console, different miking situation, different room.
That's right.
And then you had to honor the room, because each one of those rooms had its own character.
Do you know that the character of the room going in? Is there like a legend about you guys all know? No,
not really. I mean, you walk around and have a listen, and I mean, we'd ring things out, but that's just technical, boring stuff. So you just get rid of some of the room modes. But in essence, you only know what the room sounds like once the guys start playing for sound check.
This was starting all over every single
night. Every single night.
Wow, yeah. That is really serious.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And when you get to that room, you're at Teatro alla Scala or whatever. You're in this new place that you've never been in. Is there just a point where you're just like, it's 7:30, it's good. That's just,
we're gonna have to stop this.
Yeah.
No.
Or are you able to actually nail it each night?
Well, if the press was anything to go by, I think we did nail it every night.
Yes. That's the story we're sticking to.
Which was great. But yeah, it was a great challenge, and we had plenty of time, because Sting and his entourage and the singers and Edin would fly. They would use Sting's private jet. There was, how many were there? Monitor engineer, me, lighting engineer, production manager. So there was 4 of us, and we were on a tour bus. So we would just drive to the next venue, and we'd get there plenty of time. So we'd be ready by the time he arrived.
Okay.
And just do a little setup. We also had the instruments with us, so he actually caught me playing his lute one day whilst we were trying to check it out.
Yeah. Did he get mad at you because you had...
No, I remember on the first day, because I hadn't met him. I got picked up in London on the tour bus, and we met for the very first time in Paris.
Okay.
And I'd heard things about Sting, and I thought, oh God, this is probably going to be an arrogant gas bag.
Right.
He couldn't have been nicer if he tried. But he saw I had tattoos and the monitor guy had tattoos, and he was like, "You're a bit too rock and roll for this show." And that's why I brought up the shy thing, is that I still don't know why I did this, but I asked permission to grab his lutes, and he went, "Yeah, sure," and I just launched into Bach, because I was trained as a classical guitarist. And he went,
"You had to let him know."
And from that point on, we were just, this was it.
That is terrific. Well, but he chose you for a reason.
Yeah,
and it had to be to some degree that he had sensed through your previous work that you
maybe not personally, I'm not sure, but
okay.
through various channels, he figured out that
you were the guy for the job.
I knew something, so yeah. But it was scary. I mean, that was really the first big scary job where I was sort of on my own.
Wow. How long was that tour?
It was, I think it was just over a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just different cities, a different challenge the whole time.
The whole time, yeah.
That's amazing.
It was great fun.
And then where from there? What'd you do next?
Oh, God. This is all so long ago now.
That was a while back,
It was a while back, yeah. I think that was 2005 or something, yeah.
Holy cow.
I ended up, my first proper recording session in the UK was I was assisting, and I was still teaching at the time as well. This was close together, time scale wise, and I had to go back to college to do my job. And I got a call at the end of the day from the engineer saying, "Hey, what's your availability?" I went, "I can be available." "Why?" He said, "I've just been fired." "The job is yours." So that was another one, sort of straight into the fire, because I'd just been assisting, and this was a band. It was like a mini supergroup. It was Pete Townshend's brother Simon, Mark Brzezicki from Big Country on drums, Bruce Foxton from the Jam on bass, and Bruce Watson from Big Country on second guitar, and that was all to tape, nothing on Pro Tools.
Wow.
I'd never really run a tape session before, and I just had to go and deal with it, and that led to them being on tour with The Who. So we spent a couple of months on the road with The Who, with me mixing the support band, which was Pete's little brother, and then The Who would follow up. So we did the whole of Europe like that as well.
Wow.
So and then Sting kind of spoiled live engineering for me, because we were treated so well. I was done with doing shitty gigs.
And now here you are, dragging around stuff for the supporting act.
So now I can sort of pick things, It's like, if it's like a van tour where everybody's sleeping in some student digs, I'll probably won't.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of artists.
Probably.
Yeah. There's always the exceptional gig.
It depends.
Okay.
But yeah, I have a few artists that I still do front of house for, and I love it. I'll never give up live work, even though I love studio work so much.
Who are those artists?
The main one at the moment is a band called Rock Goddess.
Okay.
They were one of the sort of pioneering new wave of British heavy metal bands. So, at the time of Iron Maiden and stuff like that, and they've reformed, and they're going. So, and that's a cool example, because I do live sound for them, but I've also mixed their new EP, and we're about to go in the studio to do their album. So,
wow.
Yeah.
When you're in that live setting, are you allowed to really enjoy the moment? Are you ever swept away? You're like, oh, that's right, I'm working, and you...
It depends, and I think it's the same over here as it is in the UK, but, a lot of venues skimp on the sound equipment. They think they can have a little cheap digital desk that you can do monitor mixes from as well, and then a little PA system, and that should suffice. And it's never good enough to fill the room, to be loud enough for the punters to enjoy the music. So you're always struggling with that, because mixing monitors from front of house should be illegal. It really should be illegal, because it makes for a potentially shit gig, and the audience is going to react to that, and they're going to go, don't go to that venue, it sucks.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. Sorry, I'm advocating now, but
the venues don't realize the disservice they're doing themselves. Because sometimes the fans will go away going, it sounded
that
bad.
wasn't good, yeah.
But a lot of times the loyalist for that band is going to go, well, it couldn't have been the band. I've seen them other places, or I've seen, and they always sound great.
Yeah.
It had to be the house.
And the house doesn't realize that, they're losing out on drinks.
Right.
And, they're making less money. If they would put in a dedicated monitoring system and dedicated front of house system with maybe a good in-house guy who knows how to run it, but definitely an in-house monitor guy, things would be so much better and everybody would be a lot happier.
Yeah.
So in situations like that, it's hard to enjoy the job because you're kind of battling all the time. And it's kind of that thing, shit, sound check, great show. So, I'll freak out during the sound check, but then the show will probably be cool.
Yeah.
But if everything is nicely set up and stuff, you can get lost in the moment and just really, really enjoy what you're doing. But I'm not one of those guys, I see this a lot, I'm not one of those guys who sits on his phone once he's got the balance. I'm constantly changing the balance and I'm playing with effects and I'm just playing with the music. So, if there's something that requires a little delay or something, I'll fly that in. So I'm constantly moving stuff and I'm exhausted after a show.
Wow. Doing just as much work as the lead guitarist.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Have you had the challenging show that has so much active mixing involved? When there's instrumentation, when you have to fly things in because they're doing tell us about one of those kind of shows. What artists may surprise us by doing that?
The Sting stuff was like that to a point because it was very dynamic and it was a challenge because the lute is such a quiet instrument.
It's a delicate instrument.
So it was more of a sound reinforcement because you're in a classical hall, so you don't need to, blow people's, all the people who came to that show are probably wearing tuxedos and stuff. So, there's a very classical audience.
And their ears are delicate.
Very delicate indeed. So, there's still quite a lot of dynamics going on because, Sting's vocal range would go, he would end the show with a bunch of Police covers done in a classical way.
Yeah.
So he would sing those the way he would have sung them with the Police. So that's suddenly 17 times louder than where he would have been on a very quiet sort of Dowland piece.
Yeah.
And then, the choir would come in, so you'd have to dynamically bring that in and out, and
a lot of active.
And then you've got the Pro
mixing.
Tools stuff that you need to trigger right on cue as well, so that you don't want that to suddenly. I remember there was a bell sound like a church bell at the end of one piece, and it was fine from my end, but something went wrong on the monitor end and it was really loud through the monitors. So it was like this really delicate piece came to an end and it was like Big Ben letting loose into the hall. I remember Sting walking backstage and just pointing at us going, "Oi, Quasimodo." So I think the most dynamic and involved mixing I've done was it was actually an Arthurian legend piece. It was like a theatre piece, and it was in a big circus marquee somewhere in London where we were for the whole of winter, and it was jousting and sword fights, but it was basically the story of the Green Knight, and there were explosions, but I was triggering all the sound effects for that from front of house as well. So there was singing, operatic singing, folky singing, then there was all the sword fighting stuff, proper full-on fight scenes, but then everything had sound effects which I had mapped on a keyboard and triggered. You probably remember them, the Akai samplers.
Yeah.
So I was triggering all that whilst mixing. So and then all those things had different levels, so it was like one hand on the console and one hand on the keyboard.
Yeah.
And whilst reading the script.
That sounds impossible.
Hold on, did you ever get the scene where the guy got his head chopped off and you accidentally hit the fart sound? Were there any big mistakes like that?
No, but I do have a funny story about it, though.
Please.
If you don't mind. The Green Knight, who is this enormous character, at one point knocks on Camelot, on the gate of Camelot, and we had to create a sound for the Green Knight knock. So I went around town in London binaurally recording things. So I found big sort of metal shutters in factories and just bang the shit out of it. And then we had a wood block that we put a hammer on, and we just layered all this. And it was this enormous knock. And I remember one of my teachers telling me that the thing Hitler used to do at his rallies was pump 50 hertz into the crowd, and it would just G them up. Because it's such a low frequency.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, that's going to be it. That's what we need to do. So I had the whole seating, the raked seating, rigged with subs.
Oh, that's cheater.
And that knock went to the subs.
Yes, and right into everybody's taint.
Every time. And the guy who helped me put the sound effects together, who happens to be the guitarist for Susie and the Banshees, came towards the tent whilst we were sound checking. And the distance would be from here to Harbour Boulevard. So it's quite
a good distance.
Quite the distance.
Yeah.
And he heard the knock.
Wow. You vibrated the earth.
And the first time we did it, some guy came up to me, and I went, oh shit, what now? And he went, are there going to be any more of these things happening? I went, no.
Because I haven't had an orgasm in 15 years.
Well,
look what you've done.
Almost. I went, no, probably not. Not as bad as this. He said, good, because my wife almost gave birth. Yes.
Wow. That's a serious knock.
It was.
Say she got knocked up.
Exactly. It was wicked. It
wow.
was wicked.
So, Pete, where were you going?
Man, he said it was impossible.
Oh yeah. So when your job is there's so many things going on, and there's acts that have just enormous shows. Like U2 is such a big production. Can you handle like that job by yourself, or does it have to be like a team? Because they use the heck out of the Pro Tools stuff. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you know, if you're dealing with people like that, there's enough budget to have a guy who just looks after just the live instruments,
right.
One Pro Tools operator and stuff like that. I mean, on the Who tour, on certain gigs, just to take the pressure of the guy who was mixing the band, he would occasionally ask me to look after drums.
right.
So I would deal with drums and he would deal with the rest. Or he would put me on guitar duty, which was quite exciting. just touching Pete Townsend's guitar fader. That's pretty fucking cool.
Wow. So is there, when you get hired for the gigs, things going to go out or whatever, do you get to say, this is not a one-man job? It's a 1.5-man job maybe, but do you get to say that? Do you have that kind of...
Yeah, sure. I mean, if it's a worry, it should be brought up for sure. Yeah. And then it's down to money if it's going to happen or not.
Sure.
But, if it comes down to it, fuck it, I'll do it.
Right.
That's the spirit.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what we got to ask you, because I'm sitting here in a fucking Argyle sweater. Where do rock stars buy clothes, man? Because you dress like a rock star. I'm sitting here in a sweater.
My clothes, Jesus. Well, most of my T-shirts come from trade shows.
Yeah.
This is my rack T-shirt, which is from the studio where I do most of my work.
Yeah, but the jacket.
The jacket is...
I wouldn't even know where to get one of those.
Over here I would say Nashville, but there's a little shop in London that specializes in sort of Western stuff.
Okay. It does look like there was one particular guy who made all the clothes in Nashville. Like when you arrived in Nashville, when your label decided, we're going to put you on the road, they'd send you to this guy. And it was a Mexican guy in Nashville, and he would make everybody's, from way back to starting with, Chet Atkins or something. I mean, he had been in business a long time, and I don't know if he's still around or not. I'll challenge our listeners to find out who that is and look him up and see if he's still around. But
let
me know if he still is.
Okay. How does stuff different on this side of the ocean from what you guys do? Like, what do you see as a professional? Is there a style, a language in how we mix things versus how you guys do it?
I've always found that the American sound is definitely punchier. It's got a little bit more edge to it. And generally it feels to me things are quite quite professional here, as where in the UK things can be a little bit more rock and roll. It's like, well, that channel doesn't work, just give it a hit and or repatch, and we'll work around it. As where here it feels like everything is just so, and everything is perfectly looked after.
Wow, this from the guy whose dad sniffed out the right school in London. Man.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if this is still going on here, but a while ago I noticed that in the UK, if you hire a studio, you hire a studio. That's it.
Yeah.
Over here, it seems a lot of the time you hire a studio and then you've got to pay for the Pro Tools rig, and then there's certain microphones and certain bits of outboard gear that you need to pay extra for, and suddenly your bill just goes boink.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still going on, but it definitely was, and I always found that weird.
Yeah, it seems kind of fishy.
You go into a studio, whatever's there. That's why
you pick that studio.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
You go to Ocean Way because they got that enormous
big
cabinet of microphones and the focus. Yeah, exactly. So when you first came, first of all, when did you first come over here?
When did I first come over here? I think my first ever trip to the States was on my way to Canada. Sorry for swearing. As a tourist, it was my 21st birthday. But the first.
Why did you go to Canada for your 21st birthday?
I was a snowboarder, and my parents thought that would be the ultimate.
I see.
They took me to Whistler.
Whistler, yeah.
Yeah, that spoiled it for me too.
Wow.
Like, everything else in Europe sucks.
Man, your
now.
mom does hook you up.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think the first proper sort of audio related time was one of the AES shows.
Okay.
Quite a while back.
Yeah.
So, but I love it here. I mean, my dream is to have like 1 or 2 projects a year in this country, and I'm happy.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it here.
I love
here
it
looks
here.
good on you. When you come over here, man, you're exotic to this place.
Sure.
Especially with, how do you like LA?
Well, I always thought LA was weird because you have to drive everywhere.
It's not like
everywhere. You can just come out of your house or your hotel and go to a bar. You have to get in a car, and then you can get pissed.
Yeah.
So that's annoying.
Right.
And
pissed means drunk, American
listeners. It does. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Trashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought LA was weird and very
we
spread
came from
out.
a trade show around the corner.
Yes.
And we had to drive here.
Exactly.
You probably Ubered here.
No,
I
walked, but I'm a weird guy who likes walking.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, yeah, we got... So Pete's girlfriend brought us over here, and she said, why didn't you bring me all the way out of the house? You're going around the corner. So we should have probably walked our fat asses here, too. But we didn't know quite how far we were going.
No, exactly.
In L.A., though, you have to be prepared to, I got to go somewhere. I'm getting a car.
Yeah, and it's going to take some time.
40 minutes. In Los Angeles, that's the rule. Wherever you're going, you need to plan.
40 minutes?
Everything is 40 minutes away.
That's optimistic, isn't
it? And it is optimistic,
right.
but that's the low end. You have to know that wherever it is, hey, let's meet. I'm not going to see you for another 40 minutes.
And there's also like a traffic allowance. So I left 2 hours early to be here on time.
Right.
And usually you're like, yeah, it's all right
that
because
happens.
An airplane landed on the freeway or something crazy. Because that happens all the time. Or there'll be a car chase and they're like, hey, shut down the freeway.
Of course. Yeah.
And so everybody's like, yep. Okay, we'll wait.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
I mean, I think once you're here, you deal with it, but it's a bit alien for me. I have to say, I came out early to do some software clinics in LA, and they put me up in a little hotel sort of near Beverly Hills.
Oh yeah, a little boutique joint.
Yeah, a little boutique joint, and I walked around the area, and it gave me a completely different feel to LA.
Good.
I was like, ooh.
Glad you got to see that.
LA can be like this. This is great.
Yeah.
There was like an amazing Jewish deli around the corner.
Oh,
I was
right.
like, I went nuts. It was great.
So that area in particular, I'll say this. This is our observation, and I'm glad you got a little taste of that, and I will encourage you to get as much taste of that as anybody who hires you and brings you over here will allow. The thing about LA is that it is, for the rest of the country, let's say you're in some small town in the middle of Iowa.
Yeah.
And if you're a girl born into that town, and let's say you are really, really special, you are maybe the most beautiful child who has been born there in 3 or 4 generations, and they look at you as a child, and as you grow up and mature and become more poised, you're going to hear one thing over and over again from everybody in that small town, and that is, when you get old enough, you need to move to Hollywood. And so what happens
to become
is,
a waitress?
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's unbeknownst to her.
Yeah.
So what happens is all those beautiful children in every small town in the country gets on that bus, and they come here, and they realize that they don't hand out sitcoms at the bus station, and that you have to slog it out, and while you do, you're going to have to wait some tables.
Exactly.
So when you're in that Beverly Hills setting, in that boutique joint, you can roll out of and go to the deli, or you can go to anywhere. You can go to a Burger Hut and walk in there, and you go, holy cow, the talent in here is ridiculous. Look at this wait staff.
And then you can go to audition after audition and walk into a room full of you. And then there's something about that other guy that will always get the job.
You know, sure.
Any of those character actors, Ron Howard's little brother, Clint, whenever he shows, there's a thing he does by walking in the room.
Right.
He can't even help it. You know, his chops aside.
He's just,
he's that
got a
thing.
presence.
Who else does that really well?
Well, you know, our co-host is Mark Valley. He's not here, but we're going to have to hook you up with him because we didn't realize you knew who he was. And he's everywhere we go with him, he's the best-looking guy in the room. And so we just go, well, you're used to being the best-looking guy in the room. And he just goes, I'm not always the best-looking guy in the room. So we can't relate to that. We don't know what that struggle is, Mark.
Well, in Boston Legal, James Bader called him a Ken doll, and that really pissed him off.
In real life, you don't want to piss that guy off. He went to West Point.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
His guns are huge.
He's a lot of fun. I can't wait till you meet him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
But in mixing, is there a thing like that? Is there like Jimi Hendrix has a tone. You can always hear his sound.
Sure.
Do you have a
Pete
sound?
will bring it back home, won't he?
I was ready the whole time with this. I was ready 15 minutes.
We were gone.
There definitely is. I have no idea what kind of tone I have mixing-wise, because I always try to sort of whatever works with the music. But a lot of people have described my tone, if that's what you want to call it, as a mixture between sort of the British sound and the lush American production engineering sound.
Professionalism that you talk about, the polish.
Yes,
so a little bit of
so you have a bit of grit
and the polish.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I want to go back to the mind reading.
Yes.
So is there a conscious feel that you have for that, or is it all feel when you're working with an artist and you want to stay out of their way and let them flower in whatever they're doing? Do you have a formula that you start with, or is it all just 100% I'm going in there and we're going to just...
No, I think like with anything in this job, there is no hard and fast rule. Like there is no perfect way of setting a compressor or the perfect way to put a mic on something.
Well, don't tell us that, because we just put it on the setting and then we pull our hands back. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. That's right. So we're dealing with human beings. None of them are going to be the same. They will all have their little quirks. They will all have their hang-ups. And you just have to kind of flush them out as you go along and hopefully come across them quite fast so you know how to deal with them.
Wow.
Yeah. They're all different. Everything is different.
You are a reviewer for Mix Magazine.
Yes.
You get to play with toys.
Yeah, I do.
Wow. So what kind of gear have they sent you recently?
Recently, I got a AMS Neve 1073 SPX, which is the new take on the old original 1073, which I was never a fan of the old 1073. People are going to hate me for this because
no kidding.
Everybody goes, yeah, that's the best thing ever. I always thought they were fuzzy and woolly and kind of cranky. The new one is what I want a 1073 to be. It's not woolly, but it's got the character, and my favorite thing is it's got an output trim. I know it's really silly, but
wow.
you know, you got control over the output signal now, as opposed to the old one where you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
you
else?
had to fix it in every fader.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and then I got a Bax mastering EQ from RJR, which is just amazing. It's something else. So yeah, those 2 reviews are coming up.
Wow.
Coming up soon. Yeah.
I've not read any of your reviews.
They're online somewhere.
Yeah, so now I'm going to poke around. I used to work at Mix.
Oh, cool.
Years and years ago, we had a segment of Mix called the Mix Bookshelf, and it's where we sold all our reference books and stuff like that. And I worked in the Mix Bookshelf with Sean Moody and Craig Wingate.
Cool.
Let's bring up those old names.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was a great place to learn about...
Sure.
And it was great for the folks who would just come through, you know, the reviewers and stuff. And every once in a while, you know, hey, Thomas Dolby's downstairs, and you know, people would just pop by.
That's right.
And you could at the time you could walk out and literally see San Francisco from Emeryville. So anybody who came to San Francisco, and everybody comes to San Francisco, wouldn't mind just crossing the bridge and hopping over.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you get to play with toys, man.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Are you going to the Tech Awards tomorrow?
Sadly not. No. This actually is the first time I'm going to miss out, but I'm flying up to the Bay Area tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So, because I've got a software clinic there at Fantasy Sound.
Oh, no kidding, in Berkeley.
Yeah. For the whole grain plugin quartet.
All right.
And then the next day I have an actual recording session there.
At Fantasy.
At Fantasy.
Who are you recording?
I'm recording Gino Robert, who you might know from Mixed Days. He's the managing editor of Electronic Musician.
Okay.
So he's put an ensemble together for experimental music. So it's going to be prepared piano and percussion, some mad synths and crazy trumpet.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're talking
That sounds
to
like fun.
Wes Maebe. You could get him at Wesonator. I said it British style that
You
time.
did indeed.
Wesonator, or as we would say, Wesonator.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
Wesonator.com.
Wesonator.com
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
GHQ Sonic Cuisine on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of
gotta
the
check him
above.
out. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knows, because it's such a neat thing that these days we can reach out like this. And someone that listens to this show is interested in what you do and how you do it. And you're such an approachable guy. I just wanted to encourage folks to reach out and go and read the stuff that you do on Mix and all these things, because it's just, it's just such a fascinating conversation that we're having here.
Yeah, and if you're interested, listeners, in audio engineering and producing, anything of the sort, absolutely check Wes out at the website, the Wesonator, and Wesonator.com. I keep saying Wesonator.com is where you're going to find him. And here's what you ought to do. You ought to try to pattern your diversity of gigs after anybody that you see who's worked with such a wide variety of artists and such a wide variety of settings. You're going to continue to challenge yourself. You're going to run into the most interesting things, and you probably get the most interesting gigs, because interesting begets interesting, does it not?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Yeah,
so
I
how
agree.
much of your interest in psychology has paid off in the gigs that you've done?
Well, I think it's sort of more subconscious than actually sitting there and thinking, oh, crap, how am I going to deal with this? Although it happens.
Sure.
It definitely happens. There are situations where you sort of have to step back and forget about the engineering for a bit and become a listener and sometimes like a therapist almost.
Bit of a counselor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes these guys, and this is not just the artist, I mean, this could be the producer. I mean, most recently I did a session with a producer and suddenly he just went real cranky and the mood just dropped completely. So I called the day early and I just took him to a bar and we just sat down, and suddenly all this stuff from his childhood kept pouring out.
Wow.
Like, okay, yeah.
And you got him all pissed and kicked him in the nuts and then went back to work the next day.
Yeah, something like that. No, I didn't get him pissed because I wanted him to be compass mentis the next day. So, but yeah, just listening and just, kind of, I don't know, reassuring and you know, boosting the ego a little bit, and we're ready to go. And yeah, it's the same thing with the artists. I mean, you know, the drummer can have a hang up on something and he can't play it, and just you know, have a talk and tell him not to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, because once you start getting focused on that, it's just going to keep happening. So,
are you still fascinated by serial killers?
Totally.
Which ones can you just not shake? Like, who just sticks with you?
No one in particular.
Okay.
No one in particular. I think it's more the sort of... The thing that really interested me was kind of how they got to that point. You know, how the hell do you become somebody like that, and then sort of trying to figure out all the little bits that would potentially give them away, you know, and show their MO.
We grew up right in the area where the Zodiac Killer was operating. Wow, okay. Yeah, he killed people in both our hometowns. Our hometowns are adjacent.
Right.
And so we've always sort of had this air about it, you know. This has always been interesting to me as well, too.
I'm a licensed private investigator. That's my day job.
Wow.
And I, in particular, do criminal investigations.
Okay.
So typically, my client is the defense attorney.
Right.
On behalf of his client. And so, I don't know that I've gotten this question on Quora. Have you ever been in the room with a serial killer? Or what are serial killers like? And serial killer, by definition, or what we think of as serial killer, I will say no. But I have been in a cell with a client who has killed multiple people.
With his hands.
That's a different vibe.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's why I'm really interested in how you get... Now, I work for the guy.
Right.
So I get to tell him, look, you got to help me out because I'm helping you. Mm-hmm. So it's a different kind of vibe and a different level of guardedness.
Sure.
But that's one of the reasons that I'm interested in the mindset situation, because you're really trying to get this artist to a place where their comfort allows them to be wide open.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And whilst you were telling me this, I just remembered a situation where it went kind of the other way, because I'm always talking about comfort, and you know, everybody has to feel relaxed, and you know, and there's the usual sort of talkback bit where you go, just imagine you're at Wembley Stadium and women are throwing their bras at you, and now give me the performance of your life.
Yes.
But I was recording
that's in the engineer script.
That's right. And I was recording this gorgeous singer. She's called Ray. She's a Scottish singer. She's a professional vocal coach, but she's doing her own album now. And I've been working with her for quite a while. And there's this one song. It's all about her mom. And she was singing it, and it was just not happening. And she's performed this thing live hundreds of times, and somehow in the studio it wasn't happening. I turned the lights down, yada yada yada. So I just stopped her. I said, Ray, just can you tell me what the song is about? Even though I knew what the song was about. So she launched into the whole explanation about her mom and stuff like that. And at the end of that, I just went, right, now can you picture your mom and sing it to her? And I turned all the lights off in the control room so she couldn't see me. And she got through the first verse and broke down in absolute tears and went, I'm sorry, hit it again. And we went straight for another take, and she sang the whole song, and you can just hear this thing ripping apart in the vocal performance. And that was it. There it was. Wow. So it you know, you just need to figure out triggers and a little bit of trial and error. Yeah. But you know, you'll stumble on it.
Yeah, I use something similar to that when, like, I used to work in the conflict zones like Iraq and Afghanistan as a spy. So I would talk to people and try to get them to do the same thing. Where you're looking for that emotional trigger.
That's right.
And so I'll ask something that I know the answer to, because I know that it will draw something out of them.
Exactly.
So there you go. You're using spy techniques as well in your engineering.
I was not aware.
Yeah,
it's the trick we've all done.
Yeah.
You know, on
I
the
can
ladies.
neither confirm or
you
deny
like
that.
milkshakes, don't you? We know the answer to that question. We know where it's leading. You know, my house is right near a milkshake place. Yeah, head that direction. Anyway,
Whoa,
but sometimes
that's going in the wrong direction.
but sometimes you go the other direction with that, where like you say, you know, they don't like milkshakes. You're like, you like milkshakes because you want that. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah,
that emotion right there. Give me that.
Yeah.
Let me go back.
I mean, sometimes if it's right, I'll just lay into them and just get them really angry, and get them.
Sometimes that's
get them
what
going
they need.
Get them going like that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. What do you think the guy who engineered Straight Outta Compton was doing in the booth? He was anyway
drinking a 40.
I'm going to go back to the question that I wanted to ask you though, which was, who's the kindest artist?
UB40.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear that.
Well, there's a new album coming out soon.
Oh, good. That's good.
Yeah. I just finished it.
That's cool.
That is cool.
That's a
really
band
nice to hear.
like UB40 is one of those bands that they're not epic like up there with like Green Day or those kind of things, but they are always like Fishbone. They'll always be cool. They can always tour.
Yeah.
People can be like, "Oh, you know what?"
That's true. They always will pull off cool.
And they're touring brutally. I mean, they're touring the hell out of it. And you know, I mean, over 100 million records sold.
I mean, for crying out loud, that's
All
pretty
right.
epic.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, when I was trying to find the word, like, Mike, I don't want to say not epic.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
They're not. They've never been given that title, and I think that's probably maybe an indicator that they've always been wonderfully exposed without being overexposed. I mean, because you get to love U2 Pete gets to love U2.
I love
Pete loves
U2.
U2. You get to love UB40 as much as you want, and who's going to give you a hard time about loving UB40?
Sure.
Like you brought up Fishbone. You can't give somebody
That's
a hard
right,
time
that's
for
right.
loving Fishbone.
Yeah.
So they've been one of those bands where they never got to that point, in spite of selling 100 million albums.
Exactly.
Never got to the point where somebody would go, "Oh, you like them? Come on."
True.
So
Well,
good.
yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that they're the nice and kind and great to work with.
Beautiful people.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Absolutely.
Well, then it couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of guys. and I would say the same about you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So who haven't you worked with that you want to work with? And we're rounding third base here. So I think I'd like to know.
You say that to a British guy.
No, it's okay. I'm a baseball fan.
All right,
so-
good.
Right.
We got away with it.
Well, and he's a fan of the human mind and understands metaphor. So
and bourbon, not whiskey.
oh, okay,
Nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Bourbon's good.
So
See, I need to be here.
who is you do at least a couple times a year, and you need to experience
Exactly.
good wait staffs.
That's
so, the artists that you haven't worked with yet that you'd like to, and the type of project that you haven't had your hands on yet that you'd like to tackle.
Okay. Well, the artists that, I mean, how long have you got? I mean, we're on third base here.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if let's see, if I had to pick, can I pick three?
Yeah,
Sure.
you can pick 3. Oh, you can pick 5 if you want.
Just off the top of my head, I want to work with Dave Grohl
Oh yeah.
because he's the dude.
Uh huh.
I'd love
He's
to
got one of those Woolly Neve consoles too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but I know how to make it sound good.
Okay.
I'd love to work with Clutch.
Nice.
Okay.
That's a deep
Really.
90s pull right
Yeah.
there.
I really like to work with those guys. And okay, here's the curveball.
Yes.
Keep the baseball thing going. I don't know what he's like as a person, but I'd love to work with Kid Rock just because the artwork of the picture of the two of us together would be fucking hilarious.
You're absolutely right about that. Wow. Well, I don't know what he's like as a person. I know he's a little more political than I really kind of wish he was.
That's right. Yeah.
But I will say that I've heard that he does the Kid Rock cruise every year.
That's right. Yeah.
And you get a bracelet for the number of years that you have been on the cruise.
Okay.
And for the folks who have been on every one of them, because I think there's 8 or 9 of them now.
Something like that, yeah.
And there are some people who have been on every one of them, and he treats them really, really special.
Ooh.
But what I've heard is that it's not just about doing the autograph signings and the obligations. You know, he goes out on the Lido deck, and you might just see him on day 2 sitting next to you in the hot tub. And you can go, oh, Kid Rock is in the hot tub. You don't get to call him Kid Rock. You got to call him Bobby.
Bobby, that's right.
So that to me is pretty cool.
I just thought of one more.
Please.
Nikki Sixx.
Nikki Sixx.
Wow.
I'd love to work.
Let's just go to his house or Dave's house. They're not that far from here.
Yeah.
6 a.m. are currently one of my favorite bands.
Really?
ever.
Right on.
How come Clutch? What made you pick them?
I didn't know anything about them. Somebody played me their stuff. Actually, it was a band's manager played me their stuff, and I went, whoa, what is this noise? I mean, it's such a sort of visceral...
For sure, visceral, yeah.
Noise that's just like pure...
Wow.
You know, and I can't grow a beard like they can. So. But those guitar tones, that really swampy kind of sleazy stuff, I really love that. I mean, if Caius was still going, I wanted to work with Caius, but they're no longer going. So yeah,
Swampy. Here's a guy who doesn't like the Woolly Neve console, but he wants the swampy guitars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But they need to have definition. But the way they play it needs to be swampy.
He's also a guy that can play a flute, a fugue
on a lute.
Fugue on a lute. Hard to do. You just smash that whole thing together. Huh?
Yeah, I did. A flute.
That sounds good.
A fugue on a flute. God, I still can't do it.
Yeah.
A fugue on a flute. Yeah.
You know what? Can you do that?
No.
Oh, damn it. All right, you can play a fugue on a lute. Boy, that was tough to do.
Yeah. All right. And we're leaving all that in.
Of course.
It's not getting edited out. Anyway, yeah, thanks, man. We really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great time at Fantasy tomorrow.
I'm sure it will be.
That was
amazing.
Pete and I both grew up in the Bay Area. So when you grew up in the Bay Area, that was the place where you you want to know what was going on in there, and all the artists that came out of there. I mean, that place has been there for a while.
Yeah. They've
Some
done
iconic
some
stuff.
serious records in there, for sure. Yeah,
So good luck with that.
Thank you.
Everybody, Wesonator.com. Check him out. And if you're at all interested, once again, I'm going to encourage all our listeners, if you have any interest in sound engineering, producing anything of the sort, reach out for as much variety as you can, and reach out for as much variety as we've enjoyed in the work of Wes Maebe.
Yeah, and if you want to ask me anything, just send me a message.
Terrific. Thanks, man.
Pleasure.